Welcome to Art with me, Katie Cordy. Today, I will demonstrate how I use basic shapes to create a wide number of different trees, fungi, flowers, and more. Please note the timestamps on each of these images so you can skip forward to the plants you are interested in during this long video. Due to the length of this video and the number of drawings, there is no sped up coloring today. So here I have a bunch of really simple shapes. An oval, a triangle, another oval, some circles, more ovals, and I'm using these to create all of my different shapes. For instance, you'll see on here that I'm just using a bunch of almost like smiley faces to create the texture in my trees. And you'll see that I have all these different basic shapes for all these different types of plants, flowers, mushrooms, so on and so forth. So really the trick to all of this is simply just breaking different plants down into their basic shapes and then adding details. Whether it be a bunch of, for instance in this case, a bunch of smiley faces. Or you could think of that as a cloud as well. This one definitely is like a lot like a cloud, or like a thought bubble. And you can swap out your smiley faces. Maybe you want something more spiky, so you just use the top of triangles. Again, basic shapes. So many different basic shapes. I'm gonna do some little and some big smiley faces here to give myself some texture, which is also great if I'm ever drawing clouds or, again, thought bubbles. Change things up. For this one, I'm going to use little swoopies almost to create the branches of my pine tree. They're not quite straight, I flick them out on the ends. And then I come under and I tuck under all the branches. But again, it's still in that very triangular shape to get an overall feel. And when I'm done with all of these, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to end up erasing all of the pencil markings underneath. Really, a trunk or any branches are a lot like a mix between V's and, see, I'm going to draw a V here, and rectangles. And you just play around with them to get the different shapes that you want. Whether it be multiple branches or one big fat trunk, like this one. See, back to a rectangle. In my roots, I'm just doing little triangles or straight lines for roots. Little zigzags. Now I'm going to switch over to flowers, and I have a bunch of different flowers planned. Say basic shapes again. For my rose, I'm going to start with a simple base, and then I'm just going to branch out with essentially half circles. And I'm going to just slowly increase the size of them as I come out. I didn't get my middle quite in the middle, so mine's a little lopsided, but that's okay. Here I'm going to put a sunflower, so I'm going to draw my circle for the inside, and then I'm going to draw just a million diamonds for my first row of petals. Then I'm going to come in with little triangles on the top to create the idea that there's more petals behind my diamonds. And I'm going going to make some lazy seeds by simply drawing a bunch of lines and then cross-hatching them. Cross-hatch. This will be my poppy, which is a triangle, with 2 triangles on either side. I have a little stem. This one, I'm doing, these can be like little bluebells. And they're almost like little ghosts. Then you just, whoop. There we go. Add a little stem. So here I'm drawing a hibiscus. So I have 1 petal, 2 petals, 3 petals, and I already drew my little stem. Little jump the gun there. There we go. I'm gonna add little wrinkles inside just to give it a little bit more depth. I know this type of flower, it starts with a D, it's like a delphine something or another, but essentially it's a bunch of little flowers clustered together on a large stem to create like a cone. I unfortunately am not as good with plants as my sister. I tend to kill my plants, which is why I prefer to draw them. Over here, I'm going to do a Venus flytrap. So it's a triangle with little lines at the top to create almost like the little teeth. Now I'm going to do a pitcher plant. No frogs in this one though. And I've got 2 ovals. And then I'm going to come down almost like a sock. And I'm going to add 1 more open-faced Venus flytrap just because I enjoy drawing them. And it's like 2 very soft triangles, or slightly pointy half circles. Next I have my cacti, and I'm going to draw also 2 succulents. Cacti are real fun because they're essentially just a bunch of ovals cut in half, like in this one, with spikes. I don't like to draw my spines everywhere. I'm going to add a flower too. These are just diamond shapes for the flower with triangles. As I was saying before I interrupted myself, I apologize, is that I enjoy drawing spikes, but I don't draw spikes everywhere because it becomes too busy in my opinion. See, these guys are a lot more oval shaped. Again, not putting spikes everywhere, just enjoying them. Now I've got my tall cacti, and he's a mixture of almost like a very long hot dog with arms. And my last cacti, which is again like an oval cut in half. Now I'm going to do my first succulent, and I've seen these succulents at my sister's house, who is good at growing plants, and they're much rounded, almost like a flower. So I'm doing nice, just ovalish petals, or soft diamond shape. Or for in this case, I'm going to do an actual diamond shape for this type of succulent. Little triangles, the leaves, do a few extras. And really, you could branch this out into as large of a succulent as you wanted. Now I'm going to do some fungi. Mushrooms. They're great. They're just like cacti in the fact that they often take the form of ovals cut in half, or more just like elongated ovals. I like to put a trapezoid at the bottom and add the gills. Lines, lines, lines. And a stem. I'm gonna do a more triangular mushroom just for the kicks of it. Mushrooms can come in very peculiar shapes, but I just did some basic ones here. Got my trapezoid again, the gills, and almost like a rectangle for my stem. Here's a half circle for a mushroom if you're thinking more of a classic mushroom shape. I like to add texture sometimes. And these guys are almost like flying saucers. Whee! I'm gonna do almost like a triangle. These are the kind of mushrooms I'm thinking that grow on the side of trees. So theoretically, they would actually be putting into a triangle shape against a tree trunk or a log. But unfortunately, I don't have one at the moment. But I guess I could put one in. Maybe. I can try it out. Draw some rough bark. This would have been easier if I had started with a tree trunk. But I do not make my life easy for myself sometimes. Welcome to art. Last but not least, leaves? Leaves and ferns. In case you want to do a close-up on any of your trees. This is a ginkgo leaf, also known as a maidenhair tree leaf. There's some of my favorites. Then right here I'm going to do a fern. I'm going to split it in half. And then essentially add a bunch of rectangles in a row to create the idea of ferns. Great if you need a tropical rainforest or drawing dinosaurs. Then I'm going to do a more basic leaf shape here. It's almost like a heart. And you can take that same heart-like shape, but do a bunch of U's in it to create leaves with cutouts in them, even holes. I believe it's called a monstero leaf, but don't quote me on that. Again, ask my sister. For this one I'm going to do an oak-like leaf, so I've got my stem, and then I've got an upside-down U, another U, and I'm essentially just going to do cutouts to create an oak leaf-like shape. Now I'm going to do almost like a V for these guys to create like a three-pronged star. And then this one literally is a star, great for maple leaves. And leaves tend to be very symmetrical, so it's handy to get them as close to being the same on each side as you can. And then up here, I'm just going to do a close-up on a pine branch. I'm essentially just doing a bunch of tiny, skinny loops to create pine needles. There we go. And this is all the different ways that you can draw various plants just by doing basic shapes.